The Unconquerable, an original screenplay by Jonathan Fear. Exterior valley, day. To the right is an impassable slope. To the left, thick tangled woods. Victor rides hard. The horse's head bounces with each snorting breath. Suddenly, a riderless horse, great gash on its side, charges past. Victor's horse stumbles, throwing him off. Both horses gallop away. Victor gasps for breath. He goes over his limbs for injuries. Apart from some bruising, there's no damage. He runs to the tree line and moves down the valley on foot. The noise of battle, distant screams of fighting men and dying horses drift from a narrow side valley some 500 paces to the front. He spots Alice Atticus crouching by some trees. 2 dead Caledoni lie near him. Victor freezes. He takes a deep breath and looks nervously round, but there's no one. He grips his thumb with his fingers and kisses the knuckle. He moves forward.
Prefect Atticus. All right, sir?
Atticus turns, sword in hand.
Who are you?
Watch Commander Ligustus.
Atticus waves him forward.
Lost my horse.
What's happening?
Victor checks they are alone.
Those blue bastards have drawn my men into an ambush. Must get to them. Join me.
Atticus leans forward against a tree, straining to see and hear. Victor swallows hard and readies himself.
No.
Atticus keeps looking towards the fighting.
What did you say, legionary?
Atticus begins to turn his head. Victor slices his sword under Atticus's silver cuirass, runs it into his back just in front of his spine, and pulls sharply back. Atticus cries out, his hands clamped to his back. He staggers fleetingly, drops to one knee, twists, then slumps against a tree. He stares at the blood on his hand.
You've killed me.
Fulfilled my vows to Mars, a promise to a dead brother, and the orders of my general.
Atticus doesn't understand.
You killed Brother Planta at Cataractonian.
Atticus stops struggling. He glares at Victor.
Planta? You're just another of General's little puppets. How much coin did you get for this wicked act?
Victor shakes his head.
Matter of honor, the bond of brotherhood.
Atticus's head drops with a sigh. He slowly lifts his head.
You're clueless, legionary.
The sound of fighting continues to intensify from the valley beyond. Victor hesitantly wipes his sword on Atticus's tunic. Dissolved to, a fine layer of sweat spreads over Atticus's pallid face. His breathing quickens. He shakes his head.
Didn't kill anything.
Victor is puzzled. Their eyes meet.
The general.
Victor is stunned.
Killed Planta.
Atticus's face creases in pain as he nods. He fights to control it.
The general's game of brigands to displace Governor Agricola. I was keeping an eye on his activities at Cataractonian. The dead horse was an excuse to get me out of the way.
He coughs, groans, and bangs the back of his head on the tree. He looks at Victor.
Planta ran the bandits for the general.
Victor shakes his head in disbelief.
Planta. But the foul things you and Dexippus did to him.
Atticus sneers.
Idiot. Planta ran it all. Paid a regular tribute to the general.
Can't be right. I've sworn a sacred oath.
Atticus makes a sound. It's a cross between a cough and a stifled laugh.
Being totally played. Boy.
He coughs again. He puts his hand out.
Water, brother.
He slumps over, stone dead. Dissolved to, the sound of fighting has gone. Victor stares at Atticus as the sun falls lower. Suddenly the heel of a sword crashes into his head. Dissolved to, it is night. Helgacus shakes Victor awake. Victor is groggy. There are several Caledoni around him. Helgacus grips Victor's shoulder and nods at the warrior who hit him with the sword.
Managed to stop him putting the sword through you.
The man grins and winks. Victor feels for the code book hung round his chest. Interior office, day. The camp commander leans into Victor's face.
I'll chase you into the underworld if you lose it.
Back to the valley. Helgacus smiles and taps it.
Copied it. Pity. Could have used him for ransom.
Victor holds his head.
Not quite the defeat we'd hoped to inflict. Still, your cavalry has paid a terrible price. Make it look like he's been in a fight.
Helgacus leaves. The Caledoni dump bodies around Victor and Atticus. The warrior swings his sword, slashing along Victor's thigh. He plunges it down Atticus's neck into his chest. He stands up and admires his work. Victor glances at Atticus, then turns back to the warrior. He hits Victor with a lump of wood. Dissolve to, early next morning, Probus and Geta find Victor. Geta removes the code book and hangs it on his horse. Probus pretends not to notice. They put Victor on the other horse and walk out. A retrieval party reaches Atticus. Exterior battlefield, day. Geta leads the horse across the field. Victor grinds his teeth at the pain from his leg. A bright red stain on the bandage signals the thigh wound has opened again. Victor grips his head. Fresh blood trickles down his cheek. Probus offers him a cloth. Detritus of the battle is strewn everywhere. Corpses have piled up where the fighting was most intense. The surveyors stroll around counting bodies. Soldiers carefully load the bodies of the Tungrians onto carts for their funerary rituals. Several squads of fresh cavalry keep watch. One of the surveyors raises his wooden tablet to greet Probus.
Brother Probus.
You old bastard.
They grip arms like long-lost brothers. The surveyor nods up the hill.
Bloody slaughter up there.
Probus glances back up.
Many dead?
Ordered not to count. Didn't say I couldn't count the living. Ask me how many came back.
How many?
423.
Geta is stunned.
Jupiter's bollocks! It's over 1,500 dead.
I wouldn't know anything about that. The missing have been rebadged as elephants.
Probus stares at the surveyor.
Gods below. It's irreligious work we do, brother.
Listen, it's at the behest of the general. Preferably no Romans and certainly no more than 300 auxiliaries killed. At least 10,000 of these blue bastards dead. Me, a man who's sworn an oath to the precision of numbers, corrupted.
I'll not take too much notice of the casualty reports then.
The surveyor is alarmed. He puts his hand on Probus's shoulder.
Quote them religiously, unless you want to disappear as well. It's been a good day. We've a tremendous victory for Agricola.
Probus nods. They grip arms. Dissolve to, Geta pulls the horse down the slope.
Rebadging Tungrian cavalry?
Elephant is the symbol of Eusiphates.
Probus looks up at Victor.
Reinforcements from the 5th Allidae.
Eusiphates? The mutineers?
Exactly, brother. 1,500 missing Tungrian cavalry aren't lying dead in a wood. They've been written off as mutineers.
Probus silently curses.
Manufacturing a victory for Agricola.
What for?
Probus rubs his chin and thinks.
Great victory will get Agricola recalled to Rome for the triumphal parade.
Game of brigands.
What?
He stares at Victor. He grabs Geta, bringing them to a halt.
Not a word about this to anyone. Not even a joke, got it?
Geta and Victor nod.